Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Southwest Virginia fishing report with Matt Reilly. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, Marvin. Just sitting here painting some bugs up for the river once everything calms down.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, it's kind of been a weather yo-yo in the mid-Atlantic. It was like incredibly hot last week, like in the 90s. And, you know, it's kind of funny because at least here in North Carolina, the front came through and we didn't get the super severe kind of cool off that we were hoping for and got a decent amount of rain. But it sounds like you guys got a ton of rain in the New River Valley.
Yeah, we got, probably an inch and a half. They're actually calling for probably another inch towards the end of this week. So, you know, we're going to be pulling some special team stuff out late this week and seeing what we can do if we can stay on the river and stay on some fish. But yeah, it's definitely been wet. You know, rivers really were pretty dang low for the season going into last week. And like you said, you know, we had some 90-degree days that were just real hot and tough. And we've definitely cooled off. But, you know, the New River is, I think it hit 20,000 cubic feet today. A lot of our trout streams are up too. But you know, like I always say, those will recover a lot faster. But, you know, there's a couple places that we can go when the water's up. But for the most part, on the new, it's probably going to be, you know, a few days.
Yeah. And so I would imagine too, just like with trout, right, that extra water is going to push those bass onto structure.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's always going to be closer to the bank and, you know, darker flies or, you know, chartreuse, things that stick out. But yes, definitely fishing closer to the bank than, you know, you might otherwise on average.
Yeah, got it. And, you know, we always kind of sweat it when we get a lot of rain during the spawn. How do you think things are going to be okay?
It's a good question. I mean, we're kind of, for the most part, I don't want to say through with the spawn, but it's we certainly had some fry that were developed. Of course, having sustained high dirty water makes it very difficult for them to feed. You know, this is kind of the most vulnerable time for them. So I'm not going to say I'm super hopeful, but you know, I guess I'm glad we at least made it this far.
Yeah, at least you don't see any trees floating down the river, right?
Not yet. There's probably a few out there, but I haven't personally laid eyes on them.
Yeah. And so I guess too, so we're going to kind of, you know, the water's going to drop back down and you're going to warm back up. You know, are you starting to see that shift to that more consistent topwater bite?
Yeah, we definitely have had some topwater fishing in the last couple of weeks. You know, a big part of that is just having lower, clear water. That's a big part of it. The, you know, with this high dirty water that we're dealing with right now is definitely going to put the kibosh on some of that. But we are definitely have a lot of post-spawn fish right now. It's fish spreading out in the river, occupying some more summer type habitat. And, you know, I expect as soon as the water gets back down to be able to do some pretty consistent topwater fishing for sure. We've had quite a few bugs out, you know, I've seen damselflies and dragonflies for a few weeks now. And then sort of your more hidden terrestrial insects like June bugs and other beetles and that kind of thing. No cicadas, you know, it's a little bit early for that, but probably start to see some Dobson flies in the next couple of weeks, which are somewhat short-lived, but that Helgramite emergence in the springtime is usually triggered by some of these, you know, big late mid-spring thunderstorms like we're getting right now. So I would expect things to pick up on that front for sure.
Yeah, because we probably need, about 2 or 3 weeks of pretty good hot weather to get the cicadas really going.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think of them as more of a, you know, maybe late June, but certainly, you know, early July bugs. Not necessarily a spring thing, but yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting too, because folks may not know it, but if they're floating down the river, you might want to tell them like how they'll recognize those big nests of Dobson Fly eggs, right, hanging out over the water.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's something that people ask about all the time. And frankly, the first time I ever saw a Dobson Fly egg mass was on the Shenandoah River, and occasionally you'll just see one. It literally just looked like a pile of bird poop. And I was trying to figure out how this bird pooped sideways onto a box elder leaf, and and figured it out later when I looked into it. But Dobson flies typically lay eggs on some kind of moderately flat surface that's above the water, anywhere where the larva, the Helgrammites, can hatch out of the eggs and just drop straight into the water. So could be the underside of bridges, bridge pilings, the flat faces of rocks that are, right on the side of the river, leaves that overhang the river, the underside of sycamore trunks, all those things. If you see, a big mass or just a single, round, white, slightly elevated lump about the size of a quarter, that's a Dobson Fly egg mass, and it's full of Helgrammites, so fish food. And a lot of times the numbers of those eggs tends to correlate a little bit with Helgrammite habitat. So you'll definitely see some in slower, more pooly type water, but you'll certainly see a lot of them in the more ledgy, ripply, kind of stretches on the river.
Yeah, got it. And, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email them to us. You can drop them in the comments on our social media posts. You can DM us on social media, whatever's easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag, and we will enter a drawing for something cool for Matt at the end of the season. And, before I let you go, Matt, I got your newsletter. I think it was yesterday, and you've got, I don't know, maybe 20 days left between now and the end of September. You want to kind of talk to folks about that and tell them how they can find you, and we can, one, we don't want them to get left out. And secondly, I'm sure you'd love to fill up those 20 days.
Sure. Yeah, no, I've been super lucky to be as busy as I am. I'd send out those dates just trying to make sure everybody knows that, it might be the middle of May, but it is time to be thinking about August and September, because those dates are getting booked up. That's kind of, the most reliable topwater season, of the year is that, late June through late September time frame. So if, and there's, I hesitate to say that it's not, springtime is definitely when you're going to catch your numbers of big fish, but there are lots of big fish calling topwater flies all summer. That's really kind of the pattern that puts a lot of those big fish in the boat on flies. So, it's a good time for numbers of fish, good time for topwater fishing. And, you generally get a shot or two at a big fish every day on the waters that we have down here. So, it's one of my favorite times to fish, but you listen long enough, you'll hear me say that about every time of year.
Well, and I would say I would advocate for those late September dates, because I still don't believe you that it's a lot more comfortable where you are than it is in Central Virginia.
Yeah, certainly late July, early August is probably our peak heat and certainly peak water temperature window. But I will contest that we definitely don't have the humidity of Central Virginia. And, we don't see those, insane, like 105, 110 heat indexes. We might see 95, 96, but doesn't get much hotter than that in the hottest part of the summer. And certainly by late September, things get pretty dang comfortable. So September is one of my favorite months as well, just for that. You kind of start to feel the seasons changing, and summer fishing is still going on, and but it just does get a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, just a touch. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few, and have a happy Memorial Day. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
Thanks, Marvin.